Fierce Challenger Series 11 is in the books, and what a show it was, Zach. I was just talking to you, and I can't believe that the expectations were exceeded for some of these fights, especially atop the marquee. We got to kick things off with Isaac Libert and Marco Gomez, who put on quite a show for as long as it lasted.
Yeah, I mean, that was really fun. Marco is tough, man. Like, for a debut, didn't go his way. I thought the stoppage, I saw some fans weren't happy about the stoppage. For an amateur fight, debut fight, I thought good stoppage, very appropriate. But Isaac Libert, very long, 6'1", good clean striking, listened to his corners well, very impressive. Marco, some areas to grow. His coach, Chris Morris, I thought was telling him all the right things in the corner after, areas to get better at. I look forward to and hope to see both of them in the Fierce Cage again before the end of the year, if not the beginning of 2025.
Callen Curtis besting Dalton Moon in what was just a complete grappling showcase on his side.
Dude, it was so fun, and I thought Callen Curtis, ironically, Callen Curtis was the 35er coming up to 40. Dalton Moon, the 45er coming down to 40. Callen Curtis looked like the bigger, stronger fighter in there, ironically. Dalton, as advertised, very scrappy, very fun, very creative in the exchanges. I don't know how to describe it. I just remember thinking, how did he get there? Like, he was just very creative, the ways that he was putting himself in positions to try and go for submissions and try things. Nothing to hold his head down from. Good win for the hometown kid, Callen Curtis.
Vincent Van Nisi and Parker A. Beglin almost goes to the scorecards, but Parker A. Beglin able to pull it out near the end of the third and final round. Big one for him as he wins in his debut.
Yeah, we talked about his competitive background. Looks can be deceiving. I was one that I was always told myself, you don't look like a fighter, and I'd say thanks. And I got a lot of comments about Parker, and it's like, the weigh-ins and everything, it's just his body language, tough as nails, great chin. I train with Vince. I know how hard he hits and how tough he is. Parker wore all of them, executed a very good game plan, and I thought Vince showed a lot of improvement in his games. 1 and 2 going into this fight, falls to 1 and 3. Jiu-jitsu was kind of always his downfall, was in positions that, he probably would have got submitted in the past. Showed his growth there, showed his toughness, still has some things to work on, obviously. Most importantly, took this fight on short notice and belongs at middleweight at 185 pounds. That's where we'll see him next, where I think we'll see a better version of Vince. Excited to see Parker again mix it up in the 205 division.
Alan Aragon, 11 seconds of work to knock out the boxer. The wrestler versus the boxer coming into that. That's kind of how we primed it up as they were making their walkouts. But Alan Aragon, the one to show his hands tonight.
Well, excuse me. The boxer, as he came in to throw his right cross, dropped his left hand, and Alan Aragon put his hand right on his chin there and hit him right on the button. I bet that felt really good for Alan, somebody who first 2 fights went the distance, heavy grappling. I've heard it from fans, a boring style, in quotations, whatever. Comes out and makes quick work of Randy. Randy, 45 years old, in good spirits after. Cool for him to make the walk. He said, my pride's more hurt than anything, but man, if Alan can start putting his hands together with the wrestling, watch out welterweight division, because he is a dominant wrestler to go along with the power in his hands.
One of the most obscure finishes I have ever seen between Michael Lizalde and Nate Ayers. Nate Ayers able to get the win. They called it a submission. I heard that Dave Selyusted called it a tap. All over the place, because I didn't see a tap either, but I know that there's a lot of things that kind of happened in that moment, but still a lot of confusion, I think, for many.
Lizalde tapped. He did tap. Couldn't tell if it was from the shoulder choke or maybe a knee injury, as he had his legs laced and extended. But right as Lizalde tapped, Ayers didn't see the tap, postures up, and lands a devastating right hand and put his lights out. So technically by submission, maybe you give him 2 wins there and give him the sub and the knockout. Michael Lizalde is showing one of these guys that he's just gaining a ton of experience against tough guys. Malachi Novosel, short notice. Nate Ayers, short notice. Different weight classes. Gaining a bunch of experience. These are guys that now, if he can go learn the lessons that he's learned from his cage time experience, that he can grow in the room and hopefully go on a little bit of a run. I think Nate Ayers has the potential to skyrocket in a very deep, stacked featherweight amateur division here in Utah to become somebody that will, I think, as active as he wants to be, could move himself into a title picture in 2025.
Speaking of title pictures, we talked about it a lot on the broadcast given what he said in the cage. Jason Urgle extends his win streak to 2 and now is 4-2 as an amateur.
Yeah, I know he wanted the title fight. Timing is everything, right? And it looks like the stars are aligning for him. He came out. That was impressive. You know, it comes out and puts Bane Varner to sleep with a head and arm. And Jason needed that. He needed to show a little bit more. We talked about it. You know, I talk with his dad regularly about it. His last win against Mike Pfeiffer that's aged really well was more of a grappling, heavy, quotations again, boring, safe fight. Probably wasn't going to get a title fight off of a performance, something like that. But when you come out and beat somebody that's coming off of a loss that was in a title fight and you finish them in the first round like that, that puts you into the title picture. As long as all things align right timing-wise, I do expect Jason Urgle to be competing for our amateur middleweight title before the end of the year.
Michael Pfeiffer told me, I actually saw him in the stands, he really wants to potentially run that one back. We'll have to see what the cards have in store for us. Tyler Call taking care of John Henderson, a firecracker versus a calculated middleweight, showed his age and I guess showed his experience in there tonight, Zach.
I thought John Henderson was I think because of the fight we're going to talk about next, people aren't going to talk about John Henderson's performance in a loss. He looked phenomenal. He's fun. He's exciting. I told him I cannot wait to see him back in the fierce cage. Hopefully this year or soon, because he's awesome.
Incredibly entertaining.
He's incredibly entertaining and lived up to the name Heavy Hands that Tyler Call wore it all over his face. Tyler Call's likely would be the opponent of Jason Urgle for that middleweight title, earned it with that performance. He just showed a lot of veteran toughness, grappled when he needed to, got the job done, just a little bit more experience. But he's about to have his kid with his beautiful wife. Let him go enjoy that. And then I'm sure he when he's ready, he'll insert himself into that title picture as well.
Shades of Lane Dalton kind of were coming back into the mind when that fight was going on. Speaking of entertaining, Nasir Davis, Jackson DeGray, Zach, there are so many great fights this year. Our fight of the year list is up to, I believe, after this one, 7. I think this one might have the top spot given the stylistic clash plus the extents that both of these guys had to go to get their hand raised. It was close on the scorecards. Nasir Davis makes history as the first ever Fierce FC double champion.
Well, for me, it was like there's no real loser. I know, because that was a pro-level fight at amateur, and just thank goodness that it doesn't go on anybody's pro record, and we got to see a treat. We got to see it for 15 minutes, and Nasir Davis just pulled that trick out of the bag that he's probably been holding on to for a few fights, that he's been working on his grappling and just saying, you know what, he won the first round. Jackson turns the tide, starts talking, and everybody's like, and you could just feel that momentum. The crowd starting to get behind Jackson. He was starting to get behind Jackson, and I think he did the one thing that nobody expected, and he started taking him down. and he gets the takedowns and controls the grappling in the 4th and 5th round to get his hand raised. Great fight IQ. Jackson to Gray, I think it's one of those times, it doesn't happen very often, but when I can truly say his stock rose off of not getting his hand won. I think between Jackson and Nasir, they truly showed up and showed out in Price, Utah in a way that we all hoped that they could. I think there was a little bit of they're both such good strikers that it could end at any moment, but the fact that we got it for 5 rounds was incredible, and I think Jackson and Nasir both deserve just everybody. I know they have each other's respect. I hated hearing the boos for Nasir when he got it. I hated it because I feel like everybody should have just been cheered, like including Jackson. I wish I would have had a belt for both of them after a performance like that. I cannot put into words how incredible it was just to be in the building and to experience that fight cage side. It was incredible, and I'm so excited to watch both of them in their pro careers.
With that being said, co-main event delivers. The main event brings one of the wildest finishes in what was looking like underdog older pro vet versus rising star and Starling Simmons, and Ben Robinson finishes him in the first round.
I mean, Starling, the last time we saw him, powerful, overly aggressive, walking Billy Elicana down at the Maverick Center, trying to make something happen before he had that brutal leg kick. This time, I was talking to his coach Marco as the doctor was checking him out. He hesitated. You have 2 giant 185ers, and they were big 185ers in that small cage. You don't have anywhere to go. And it was going to be one or the other. And it just happened to be Starling. And, good for Ben Robinson. Like he said it. He lost 2 in a row. Needed it. I think personally needed it. And he's always been someone that, not quite, but a little bit like Mike Jones, just every time the big fight would come, it kind of seemed like he'd get knocked back down. We saw Mike Jones get over the hump last year. Maybe this was Ben Robinson's moment, fighting a guy that was 5-1, but basically undefeated. His only loss came from a leg break.
To one of the best talents in the entire world.
Into one of the best 185, 205ers around that, nobody wants to fight ever, Billy Elicana, who still has a hard time getting fights.
2-0 in the PFL at present, for anyone who's wondering.
And going to lights out promotion because the PFL can't get people that want to fight him. How many guys gets let go from their LFA contract and PFL because they're having hard times getting fights for these guys? That's Starling's one loss, and he didn't even really he got beat off of a check kick, but broke his leg, and then Ben comes out and starches him. Really interesting to see what Ben's stock does, and Ben Robinson inserts himself into a pretty fun 185-pound pro division at Fierce FC and in Utah and in the U.S. West regional scene.
Incredible showing by him. What a card it was, especially those top 2 slates. Zach, thank you so much. August 3rd, going to be a lot of fun. Mike Jones, John Poppy, and so many to support the cast.
Yeah, I can't wait. August 3rd is going to be electric, and we have some big announcements coming for some other cards. We're not slowing down anytime soon. Can tell you that. Thanks, everybody. This Price Utah show is a ton of fun.
Cannot wait for it. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.